Hello everybody, I am Bahaudin Mujtaba, and today we have a very good opportunity here with another HR professional who is one of the experts in the field and a scholar, my great colleague here, Dr. Fiedler. Thank you for being here, Dr. Fiedler, and for sharing your insights to our graduate students as well as to HR professionals and human resource managers that watch this video. I would like to begin by asking you to tell us a little bit more about your background for the audience who do not know much about you. Tell us how you got into human resources or the field of HR.
Okay, well, I'll start with my academic background. I have an undergraduate degree in psychology, which I think works really well with HR. My MBA is actually in finance, and I have a PhD in management with concentrations in HR and leadership. And my background is I worked in retailing for a while and worked up to being a divisional manager, and I realized how important people were. And then I worked for Merrill Lynch for 9 years in selection and in training, and I worked for their corporate offices, and I really loved it. And so when I decided to do my PhD, that's the field I chose.
Okay, very good. So that's a good lesson again for all of our colleagues to find your passion, and obviously then you specialize in that topic, just like you have done, just like I have done, or as many of our colleagues have done. Mm-hmm. In terms of HR, how do you see human resource management? How do you define HR in a modern environment?
I think it's just like it says. HR is the management of people. HR management, just like finance manages money, operations manages tools and processes, we manage the people. And that has everything from the beginning to the end, to sourcing those people, hiring them, developing them, engaging them, and maybe even letting them go.
Okay, in terms of, again, the modern workplace, how can human resource management strategies, when they're applied effectively or implemented effectively, how can they provide a competitive advantage for the organization?
Well, if you think about today, we are in a society that is basically either a service industry or an information industry. And in those two industries, people are everything. And if your people are not managed well, and if you don't engage them and train them so that they have high productivity, your business will fail. And so people are the key to having a competitive advantage.
And obviously that's what we all want in terms of our organizations, to have a competitive advantage. Now, oftentimes we hear the word strategic human resource management. So the word strategic is applied in terms of human resources. So how is strategic human resource management different from traditional HR management that typically we have written about or read about?
Okay, I think traditional human resource management, I don't want to use the word clerical because it's too low, but it wasn't really recognized as a profession. And today, I'd like to think of strategic human resource management as a partnership. And it's a partnership at two levels, a partnership with top management. It's making sure that top managers can achieve their strategies and achieve their goals, and that before they make that strategy, they have those HR professionals become part of that team so that they don't make plans that can't be done because they can't get the right kind of people or develop the people fast enough. And so it's very important that that HR person is part of that top management team. The other part of strategic HR management is partnership with the employees. So the employees realize their importance to the organization and to the organization's goals, and that they realize that they are important and that it's important for them to achieve these goals, and to work with those employees in new and innovative ways.
Okay, so speaking of new and innovative ways, obviously we want to be a partner with the upper echelons, but that requires us understanding the purpose and the mission statement of the organization, the department, or the company overall. So in being innovative, I've noticed that you have created some really interesting and interactive video mixes or video lecture mixes. The ones that I've seen, they've been very productive, very creative. So if you can tell us a little bit about those, or how you created them, how you designed the dilemmas and the characters and so on, and how can the audience, whether they're managers or graduate students or researchers or faculty or professors, how can they benefit from these interactive video mixes that you've created?
Okay, as you saw them, you know they're almost like comic books, but with people, with avatars. And when I did it, I thought of myself and my background. And as I told you, I came from a retailing background. I was a manager. And I thought to myself, what kind of problems does a manager face in terms of human resource management? And so I developed these with characters that weren't HR people, they were managers. And I gave them a series of dilemmas that an HR manager would actually face. Everything from how to hire a new employee to how to deal with employee issues, how to discipline or fire an employee, what to do if your company tries to unionize, all sorts of different things that those managers at different levels would face. And I do have a character in there who is an HR manager, and she steps in and helps, and then the professor steps in and helps as well. And I guide them through all the different functions of HR from that perspective. So it's almost like a story that develops in that company.
Okay, so that's very interesting, very creative, but obviously very time consuming. Not only you have to be knowledgeable about the HR perspective, but also the reality of it. The good news is obviously not only you're a scholar of human resource management and obviously other topics, but in the meantime you practice, you apply this in the real work environment. And obviously in academic environment you've served obviously as in terms of leadership capacity at a dean level, so that all of it comes in handy in creating. So obviously we're very thankful that you've created this. Our audience, who when they're watching this, hopefully they have fun with it while learning in a creative and innovative manner. A couple other things. In terms of your suggestions in terms of where human resources is going in the future. In the past, we've unfortunately labeled human resource professionals as hands, as workers, as employees, and unfortunately some other derogatory terms have been used historically going back hundreds of years. So now we call them human resources or partners in a way, not just laborers or hands. What are some patterns that you see in terms of trends for the future of human resource management?
Well, if you look at some of the studies such as from Forbes, it's a field that's exploding, especially in training, because employees need to be trained, especially as things are changing so much, and especially as things are becoming more robotic, and the employees today have to deal with those robotics and deal with the data that comes from them. So the HR is becoming more technical. I think analytics are very, very important. Big data is very, very important. So if somebody who's in HR has the opportunity to learn more about big data, that's extremely important. Also, if the economy keeps booming the way it is, there's a shortage of employees. And so you've got to do a couple different things. One, you've got to find those employees. You have to figure out where to source those employees. And that's going to be that's a challenge for HR in the next few years. The other thing is you've got to figure out how to retain your current employees. And I'm sure you've heard the term the brain drain. And you've got all these baby boomers that are all retiring, and they take with them their expertise, their knowledge, their work ethic, and that's a real challenge. And another challenge is, how do you get these different generations to work together? You've got the baby boomers, you've got the Generation X, you've got the Generation Y, and you've got Generation Z coming in. And how do you get them all to work together? So this is a diversity that's not the kind of diversity we usually talk about. It's age diversity. I think that's going to be a huge challenge for HR professionals.
Okay, so these are excellent points, obviously, for all human resource managers, all business professionals in the workplace, all entrepreneurs. Just think about how do we increase the brand value of our organization so very talented individuals want to work with us, and then obviously once we get the right individuals for the right jobs, as you mentioned, what do we do to keep them? Because good people want to stay around other people that they respect. So in this case, the role of human resource, as you have mentioned, obviously becomes very important. And hopefully all of you as HR professionals, as managers, take the advice of Dr. Fiedler here to obviously create an organization where people want to work, they look forward to coming to work, and they stay there, regardless of how much they're being paid, because they have a passion for their jobs. Last but not least, any recommendations for our students who want to specialize in human resource managers? What are some things that they can do to be successful in the field of human resource management?
Okay, there's two things I would suggest. One, they really look at their different courses and decide what area they think they would like, because almost all HR professionals go in as specialists, unless they go work for a tiny company and they're a generalist, but they usually go in as specialists. So what do they like? What are their strengths? So I've had students that their undergraduate was in accounting or finance, well, maybe they might want to go into compensation and benefits. If I've had people that have been teachers, maybe at the high school level, maybe they should go into training and development. The place where most people go in is recruitment. So I think that's really, really important. The other thing I think that they should do is they should join the professional chapter and really become active. Not just go, but network, take on positions, get to know those professionals, because those are the best contacts that they will make to get into their field.
Okay, well, thank you very much. These are good suggestions for all of us as human resource professionals when we're doing research, but more importantly for the practitioners and managers in the workplace. Those of you who are interested in the human resource field, obviously follow up by joining these organizations that Dr. Fiedler mentioned. And in the meantime, obviously read about it, study about it every single day. Thank you, Dr. Fiedler, for being here, for sharing your thoughts. We appreciate it. We look forward to hearing more about the field of professions from you in the future
Thank you.
sessions.
And I look forward to seeing the students in my courses.